Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Everyone can hear us? All right, thank you. So definitely, raise your hands and participate. We'll have questions at the end. Thank you very much, Joe, for the introduction. As Joe was saying, with those really negative experiences, this is a subject that gets me excited, even from my own personal experience at my current org. When I started, no one knew why I was even in the building. I waited 2 hours for my director to show up, and I spent 3 weeks being told, just do what you do. I had absolutely no idea what I did, because there was no training and development at all. After bringing that on, then discovering pathways and learning how to make it actually really easy just to make people feel comfortable. It's not just about making sure that they submit all the paperwork in HR, but making sure they're comfortable and know that they belong in the organization. Now, my company is 500 employees across the entire United States. So yes, that is a Yankee accent that you hear from good old Chicago. So hopefully you can keep up with me. And we work with employees across the entire country in different grocery sectors. I do onboarding every 2 weeks with new hires, anywhere from entry level all the way up to our C-suite. And sometimes I do them at the same exact time. Now, with that experience, it also ties in really well with Yashika because of the company of your organization. So if you want to share a little bit about your passion.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Yashika. I take care of talent, learning, and DEI at OPSEC. Number one, thrilled to be here and great to see you all. Absolutely spot on, Peter. Onboarding, classic case of hit and miss in the first leg of employee experience for any organization. It's the first day of joining, and the person who's joining you knows, hey, I want to stick on here or not. Hey, this company does this, and this or not. Will they take care of me or not? And what is it that they intentionally want to do as an organization for me? So we had a classic case, something similar to yourself, Peter, you spoke about. When I joined in fact, one of the biggest causes why they got me on was at OPSEC, we were working out of 18 countries, disjointed induction, everybody doing as they please and calling it very federated. And that's exactly where we all began from in our journey, getting people together, telling them this is the right thing to do. Cutting down silos, but most important, making them talk, which is the most difficult part when people are required to give up their old ways of doing something as simple as onboarding to bringing them on board on the same page and saying, this is it, we all march to the same tune when a new joiner joins us. With that, I'll pass it back to Peter, who's going to share a bit more information.
I love that you said march to the same tune because that's going to stick with our theme. Real quick, just a show of hands. How many people have been in that experience of no one knew why you were there and you didn't know what to do when you started a job? Pretty much thought so. How many of you now are responsible for that? All of us. That's how I ended up there as well. So with that marching to the same tune, really like the theme of, as L&D leaders, we're the maestros of this entire experience. If you've ever heard any music, and especially a symphony, there's always a conductor in the front. Each part of that orchestra knows what their job is and that they need to do it, but they need the maestro there for the timing to ensure that we're all working together to ensure that it is really a masterpiece at the end, something that makes you feel good. So we need to make sure that this is more than just a process. We need to ensure that leadership also plays a role. It's often the last person that anyone ever hears from is going to be leadership. Shouldn't it just be their manager? Get your executive team in. Introduce them from the beginning. And, we don't need to just train. We are connectors. We should know each and every part of our businesses. That's how we're going to be strategic, knowing how the entire business works. But then that also is going to make us that relationship builder. Welcome to the company. Great, this is your position. Here's the person you can talk to about this. Hey, I know this person doesn't do the same job as you, but they have excellent experience. I think you're going to really crack on with them. And that is what we are going to be doing along this path of ensuring that they feel that they belong. Everyone knows I signed a contract. I'm getting the money I want. But do they really know what we're doing and how we're going to do it together?
All right. So therefore, if you look at any onboarding process simplified, the intention from a day one, and every organization tries to make this fit, is how do we ensure that across the board there is consistency in the way that any onboarding experience is made and measured. How clearly do we define what exactly a new joiner or a new employee in the organization is supposed to do, what they have been asked to do, tasked to do, and for which their job description has clarified what their role and position is. How prepared it is as not just the organization to receive this person in, and I'll just talk about the preparedness which is required from the organization's part, and also the support that is required from the leadership, the organization, what kind of engagement, accountability, and what kind of leadership involvement, to which Peter just alluded to as well, is so important when you look at having a proper structured onboarding process. If you just flip to the next slide. So what's holding us back? Let's just quickly deep dive into what is it that we intend to share with you in the format of how we've structured our onboarding experience. Talking about when you look at onboarding, and I'm going to space it back to where I come from and how we began this process 2.5, 3 years back. And folks, it's a continuum. We have not solved the puzzle. We are still solving the puzzle, as I put it, right? The missing factors that were out there were, number one, quite a bit of silos. Everybody doing their own thing as they wanted to do, not wanting to work in a different way that required them to come together and have one organized format. Quite a few times short-term thinking, let's just get it done. A simple format, which quite often people forget that getting it done is great, but how do you get it done leaves an everlasting impact on your new joiner. Missed connections. Quite often managers would not come and meet the new joiner. Quite often there was no support. Somebody's joining in some point in time. HR is right behind this person getting the paperwork through, and then this person joins in. And there was no tone set up for how exactly this new joiner is supposed to operate, beyond the fact that HR rep came and met them, got the document signed, legally you're all right there, and that's pretty much it. You're on your own. Classic case in most fast-paced organizations as well. Real impact and low below, this is something we really struggled with. Our engagement survey spoke about it. We had high turnover. Specifically, if we measured in the first 90 days, forget 90, 60 days, right? We had people, younger folks who would come, join, leave, saying, hey, you know what, nobody's really interested in me, nobody really cares about me, so I'm just here doing my job, not having the feeling of belonging with the organization, feeling connected, having those deep relationships. Specific, if you're in a hybrid world these days, or quite a few folks who may be remote, they have that feeling that they work for an organization, that feeling that they have a leader who's going to take care of them, they have friends at work. All of that was missing. And we had all that verbatim because people were sharing that with us in their exit interviews. So we knew it's happening, we knew we've got to fix something, but we weren't sure what do we want to fix and do we really want to fix it? Because guess what, the system is working somehow. And most important, who's going to bell the cat? Go back and mention this and say, we want to structure it, we want to fix this. And that's where our conversation of creating an everlasting onboarding experience began.
And I just wanted to add a little bit of visual too with the silos. My favorite silo is IT. I worked in IT for a while, but how many times have you ever heard someone say, "Oh, I can't access that," and you're like, "Oh, well, that's IT." Oh, I got 3 emails just yesterday saying I have a new hire starting and I can't add them to something, and I have to say, "Oh, well, that's IT's problem. Send them a ticket." But again, that's about the communication, about us orchestrating it. It may not be our job to be the director of IT and make sure that they're doing their job, but we do need to follow through and let them know, hey, in order to get them onboarded into my training platform, I need you to make sure that you confirm they've been added to the database, and keep the manager involved in that communication. We don't have to manage them all, but we can communicate to make sure that we are keeping it together. And the short-term thinking, everyone here is onboarding and is probably like, ugh. So I'm really excited that you're here, that you came to something called onboarding. And then you think, oh no, that's induction. But sometimes it doesn't even matter what those words are. We're welcoming people on, and we're going to be with them throughout their entire career. It doesn't stop with welcoming them and then fixing a problem when their manager says they're underperforming. So we're going to build those relationships and keep them the entire time. I don't remember everyone's names, but 500 employees, and I try to remember who's who and when they started and celebrate their anniversaries. And that also makes them feel connected. Use AI, it helps you. And that impact, that feeling that they belong, that's the impact. If you don't feel like you belong, you don't care, you're not making an effort, and then you're going to end up leaving. And we don't want to see that. So what has that unstructured onboarding process resulted in?
So classic case, somebody out there, piles and piles of paperwork to fill in, day one of joining, sign this, sign that, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that. No clarity on goal setting because hey, it's day one, who wants to set up goals on day one? It's too hard a task, which also requires actually the manager to know what goals do they want to put for this new joiner in the first place, which is not something quite a few managers are thinking about on day one of somebody's joining. What exactly is going to be their benefits that PE folks have to get onto? If it's something around the benefit aspect, of course HR solves that much before the person comes along, but that's something some people already know about, some people are still trying to figure out. Our classic case, company values. What are the organization values? What do they mean to me? Not complete information to that. Somebody singing to some tune, somebody singing to the last organization's tune, every time saying, hey, we did this there, blah, blah, blah. And before you know, they're all not realizing that the new organization they've joined in, there is massive stuff in terms of the company's values, mission, statement, a vision, org structure. How do we get them to know who's who in the organization? So these are some bits that we were really missing out. Another one, we do a lot of employee engagement initiatives within the organization, and quite often leaders think that new joiners don't really care, but technically they do. Specifically these days, more and more they want to know about what are the fun stuff you do at work, how do you celebrate me at work, what are the various initiatives behind which the organization rallies for a cause, what is it, volunteering, do we do that? Some very minuscule things if you look at stuff in terms of ROI, but for the ROI for this new joiner, the employees on the organization, this is massive because that's something that people really enjoy doing. And of course, classic case, no clarity in terms of how many compliance courses are we assigning to whom. Is this new joiner going to get the right amount of hand-holding and support in terms of what their actual role is going to be like? So apart from HR and L&D doing these inductions, from a domain standpoint, what is their job? How is the on-the-job support that we're providing? So this was a classic case where we stem from, and this is what, as a problem, we decided to solve and figure out what we could potentially do. So when we stepped back, we figured out that if we want to solve this problem, of course, put a great onboarding program, but how do you create an onboarding program? We stepped back, we realized that number one, we've got to figure out what is it that we are trying to look at in terms of culturally embedding this person within the organization. Now, when I say culturally embedding this person in the organization, meaning again, goes back to organization values, purpose, all that mission statement that helps a new joiner start to believe, hey, this is this new place I've joined, this is exactly what they do, and this is how I need to help and support the organization's mission and vision. And that's my role in this entire aspect of things. Along with that, we looked at skill development. Skill development is such an important aspect because quite often we forget that you are hired for something, but the world of work we are in, there's so much change happening that constantly the skills conversation needs to be had with this new joiner, or in fact any new employee. And therefore understanding what skills we need to work on, how can we support this new joiner, after now they know their job, and after now that they've figured out this is the core work that they have to do, is something as a conversation we need to start thinking about as leaders and managers within the organization. So this is where we started to work with the managers to try to start to make them think about this aspect of it. Again, looking at how can teams play a role. I'm a new joiner, I've joined a new place. Team has a huge impact on how I'm made to feel and how I feel within the organization. So these are some aspects that we started to look at and start to feel. And therefore, thank you so much, Peter. No, that's perfect. With that in mind, we decided to segregate quite a few things into 3 dimensions. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you may already be doing this, but if not, here's your opportunity to start thinking by breaking down what exactly you're trying to solve. To begin with, we said, as an HR team, we step back and relook at what does the talent acquisition team do in terms of recruitment in their journey, because that's the first step that we can take to ensure a new joiner feels welcomed, feels appreciated, feels excited to come and join you. So this is where we started to look at, from a recruitment standpoint, what are the various things we could do. The second part, we looked at pre-boarding. Classic case where most offers drop. People shake their head, I'll come join you, but turn out on the day 1, they have not come over. Or last minute they chose, hey, you know what, I have decided to stay back with my last organization, or guess what, I got another offer and I moved in there. So how do we ensure we keep them warm, and that's exactly where the pre-boarding comes into place. And then the last section, that's the onboarding, where once they've come on board, and day 1 that they come and joined us, this is where we held them and said, from here on, it's us as the L&D team, and along with that, we get a critical component in this picture come along, and that is our business. Because while we've got them on board to help them stay on board and work with us and have that everlasting experience that we are promising them in recruitment, we need to get our business in line as well. We need to get our business leaders to have a stake in it. And that's how we start to formulate our journey. So if you flip on.
Well, and that pre-boarding is so important. That's where people get left alone. Hey, you signed your acceptance letter. Here's a bunch of things you need to do in our HRS platform. And then nothing. I think it's really important for us as the learning leaders, we're going to be the ones bringing them on, welcoming them on their first day likely. Send them an email, 2 emails. Hey, I heard you just started with us. Here's what you can expect. You may be receiving equipment. I don't know what it is, but you might be receiving some. Keep a lookout. Here's my name and number. Reach out if you need anything. They likely won't. I've been doing this for years. They likely won't reach out until the day of and say, I didn't see any of your emails until just now. But they know that you started welcoming them on board from the beginning. They're not sitting in limbo for 2 to 3 weeks wondering, I don't know what happens on Monday. So make sure you give them that communication. And with this path as well, it's not just the loops and curves, but notice there's also breaks. Everyone wants to get right into work for business. But it's really important to make sure that our new employees or transitioning employees have time in between these processes. Let them get through what you just told them in a 1-2 hour call. Let them walk away. Let them get a cup of tea, take a walk. Or my business, I tell them to drink some kombucha because they all drink kombucha all day long. But it's really important to give those breaks. Every training session I do, I have a minimum of 1 hour between every single call. And I'm very forceful with my leadership team on onboarding is going to take several days. The first week should be dedicated to them feeling comfortable and getting in the flow of communication, not just being thrown into a car and saying, get to the finish line. Enjoy the journey.
All right, thank you, Peter. So the way we've looked at defining this once a new joiner comes along and joins us, we've broken this down into a couple of segments here, which is also the mantra that we use at OPSEC from a learning standpoint, which is I grow, I develop, I succeed. How do we help grow you? How do we help develop you in your role and the future roles that you could have with us? And of course, how do we set you up for success? Our onboarding experience, along with that tailored experience of learning and development, captures this entire journey, with this one being the starting point, where we look at, you come along, you go through an onboarding journey, you have a new hire induction, you have an L&D induction. We thrill you with a bunch of compliance courses depending upon what part of the world you've joined us. And while we are doing that, ensuring we are measuring how you are feeling. Now this feel-good factor, quite often the mushy stuff, people at times forget it, but it's so important to know because that's what helps us measure the effectiveness of our onboarding. So in a short while, I'll talk to you about how do we measure it and how do we report back. So we'll just talk about that as well, because that's a missing thing we found when we were interviewing a lot of our new joiners before we began this process. They felt that nobody heard us. The business leaders just came to us and said, you know what, onboarding has to be fixed. What has to be fixed? How do they feel? Oh, they're leaving us. When we questioned them again, what do you want to fix? Is when we got down to the various things that could help us figure out these aspects and then measure against that. So we'll talk about that in a little while. We also ensured that, let's say you're a manager joining us, your learning path would be slightly different than to any other recruit who's not going to have a people leader competency. And for that we said you got to go through this bunch of trainings in your first year of joining us at your own pace. Also, if you would want to, let them pace this out to the next year, have that development conversation with your manager so that you get to know that these are the things that we are pacing out for you, let's say for the next 6 months, 1 year, or up to 2 years. So you set that pace in conversation with your manager. This also helped us put together a really good program called Personal Development Program, which we said that as a new joiner, your manager and you need to have that conversation. And this is not just for every new joiner, folks. We're doing it for everybody across the board because development is everybody's prerogative, right? So we checked with them and said, hey, manager, you need to have this conversation that this new joiner who's coming in or any team member who's coming on board with you, what is the development plan you are going to put in place for this person? Again, be very clear, this is measurable, has the SMART acronym to it, because post 90 days, not just are you going to be evaluating this new joiner, but also your new joiner is going to evaluate how you are doing in helping them succeed. Of course, along with that, behavioral training programs, domain, classic case, quite often there's nobody asking the domain training leaders, what exactly are you doing in domain training? How many have flunked domain training? How many have passed? If they have flunked, what are you doing about this? So all these aspects is something that we were missing out as one big aspect in our onboarding journey, which we decided to get on board and fix it. And of course, then the skill development aspect that we've kept in place. You want to add to that, Peter?
It's a really good representation, too, of talking about that harmony and consistency. Because even when we look at leadership management, I had mentioned at times I have had a VP of sales along with somebody who's a merchandiser, someone who goes in and makes sure that all the shelves in the store look nice on the same exact call. That's building those connections so that they know that they have equality at some level. Managers will have slightly different training, but it's really important to make sure that they're still at the same level of everyone else so they get the same exact training. You know, when you go to a concert, they play the song the same exact way every single time. Like T-Swizzle, she's never done a song differently than she did on the album, right? No? No T-Swizz fans? No? No hands? I'm only getting one smile. So, okay, just me. And this is also, who has a learning management system? Any kind of system that people log into for training. I see 3 tentative hands. Okay, come on, we can raise our hands here. It's okay. This is really important too. I have a platform, I use 360 Learning, but I know Cornerstone or anything else. Set up those paths. It's something visual that they can look at. It's something timed for them. If you don't have a platform, there's always other ways that you can work around that. Documentation, timed emails, just showing them a list of this is what you can expect because we have a clear pathway for each and every one of you.
Thank you, Peter. So, folks, going back, onboarding experience, this is something we did. So we are, as of now, we've implemented this for some time now. We have a 30, 60, 90-day checklist where all our employees are aware, because guess what? A lot of employees were not even aware that they were required to do all this. So the first step is to educate the person. This is going to be your journey. You have to also take control of it. And with that in mind, we told them in your first 30 days, hey, new joiner, you should have gone to a new hire induction by both your HR and the L&D team, where the HR does the policies and L&D does the core values, the cultural aspect of it. You have had a process onboarding. So somebody who leads domain for your business, or business learning as we call it, is actually coming, meeting you, and has put down together your learning path for you, and that's the road that you have to march on to. So educating them, this is what you should get, this is what's expected for you. Most important, get a buddy. Why a buddy? Managers are very busy doing multiple things. That does not mean that they can't be a buddy. Of course, they need somebody who can help and support them, and that's where somebody who could be a subject matter expert, somebody who's been long in the system could step in and become a buddy to this person. And this buddy needs to be assigned to you in the first 30 days. This must have happened. Guess what happened when we started telling our new joiners that this is supposed to happen for you? Any guesses what happened? If you tell a person, we are supposed to do all this for you, in the first week of them joining, what do you think they would have asked us? Or what do you think they would have gone back and asked their manager?
Oh, come on, this is a group of L&D people. I know
Come
we get
on,
on
try.
Zoom and we talk, and then you're in the audience. I do the same thing.
Come on,
Raise your
try.
hands, give some feedback. What happens? Yes. When will I meet my buddy? they ask.
Absolutely, not the manager. Where
Thank
is my
you.
buddy? Who is my buddy? The maximum questions we got back was, manager, great stuff. I need a buddy. I don't want to ask these questions from my manager, because guess what? I may look not very smart enough, might look silly, or there are many questions that you're not comfortable asking your manager. And that's where the buddy comes in. And we've also rolled out a survey for the buddy, because we realized the more people were asking about the buddy, we realized we better fix the buddy here. Because the buddy does not know what the buddy is doing, oh my goodness, we are set up for failure. So that's something that we did. 60 days, we once again said, you better have systems, you better have goals on the system. And this is where we're going to use our LMS, our learning management system, to help us come onto the aid, because we do have an HRMS platform that marries all these things together. So ensure it's out there. You've got your feedback, you've got your check-ins. Quite often, a manager, because again, a classic challenge when you get a buddy, thinks the buddy will do it all. Oh my goodness, I'll just one-off go and say hello and hi to this person. No, your manager better also be doing that, because you just can't leave everything on the buddy and walk off. That's why we need to start holding managers accountable. So that's something we started to do. Professional development, again a classic case. Recruiters, when they go around hiring people, they tell them, hey, we'll do this for your development, that is it, culture of learning, all the spiel that you can think about, we market it. But when the person comes and joins us, quite often nobody's even discussing with them their development plan for the next 1 year, 6 months. So 60 days, start having that conversation on development. Because these days, new joiners, oh my goodness, they all want to know, what are you doing for my development? What do you do? What training can I go on to? And we were like, you've just joined us, you want another training? But that's what we need. That's the kind of audience at times people are these days. They want to know what else to do, which is great. 90 days, because we follow a cadence of every quarter within the organization now. We have a performance review. Your first quarterly check-in must happen. Feedback check-ins have to continue to work on. And again, as an organization, we've committed to up to 50 hours of learning and development, which captures compliance, domain, behavior, all of that, gulped them together with e-learnings and LMS and web and all of that stuff happening. So we ensuring that they know about this, and then they can march to this tune. If I could just bring up the next slide, Peter. Yeah, this is just thought we'll show you how we are doing it. This is something that's on our intranet that we've put together so that we can educate people. Like I said, it's very important. And again, we have a survey and feedback that goes out every 25th day, 55th day, and and so on, like 30, 60, 90, the 85th day, to just ensure that we are getting that feedback from this new joiner. Once we get this feedback from the new joiner, our intention is then, we share this feedback with the business leaders saying, this is what your new joiners are saying, that's what their complaint is, that's what they're raving about, and that's what you need to fix in the new joiner experience. So we're on this journey. It's been, 8 months now we've launched this system. We began with a really poor NPS, Net Promoter Score, with our new joiners, but happy to share, as of now, our NPS looks 95% as an organization for our onboarding process, which means something is working. I'm not going to deny it's had a lot of difficult conversations with a lot of managers, with a lot of leaders, but I think that's what we aim to do. If we want the system to work, we all need to come together as a business, as an HR, L&D team, and hold our part together and hold each one accountable. So that's just something we thought we'll share with you as a case study.
With the feedback as well, I heard Rachel Moore say it this morning. What are they not saying when you're not in the room? But what are they not saying here? And it can be hard to stare at these submissions and think, what are they not saying? They love everything. We are doing so awesome. But I have to remind you, AI. You can pop these into AI very easily with your company's compliance and say, what am I missing here? Critically examine this. What are my employees not telling me about my onboarding process in these feedback reviews? And ROI, I always say ROE, return on those emotions. Do they feel supported? So kind of just a run through it again of that path to the impactful onboarding. If you haven't still felt that theme, orchestrating harmony, resonance, whether or not it's the little triangle in the background or the drums. I always think IT is like the drums, always just doing their own thing. It's a fun game. Put in a AI, what are the different orchestra elements of each of my departments, and then kind of give them those attitudes. You're going to do it. I saw you look. So making sure that there's unity. Everyone needs to be involved. Even thinking about asking them, again, Rachel was excellent this morning, having them submit reviews on social media. Hey, I just got onboarded to this company, and this is what my onboarding was like. Great promotion, but also gives you another insight to maybe what you're not having done correctly. Because whatever they're not saying, you're not doing. So it's not an isolated task. This really is about the culture. When people say, what is the company culture? Or we're going to do culture training and learning. The culture is our people. It's every single person who comes on. And they're only going to be able to add to that culture if we're ensuring that they feel comfortable, they belong, they're supported, we are able to build those connections, and they have a path to follow. I like to explore. I do not like to be lost on a mountaintop, not knowing which trail to go on. It's absolutely terrifying. So let's give them that path. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'll just say culture eats strategy for lunch, and these days breakfast. So, and again, everybody has skin in the game when you're supposed to set the tone for culture. So I definitely think as HR professionals, all of us who are out here, we need to be the folks who hold on to it. And when I say hold on to it, meaning hold on to the utmost standard that we want to put this through and get people accountable for it to ensure that culture works. Because guess what? If it does not work, everybody's going to come back and once again say, hey, HR is to blame. So the circle just goes around like this, right? So the intention is, as we folks who are the gatekeepers of it should also be the people, just to begin with, where we began, the masters of it. So we need to hold people accountable, hold the business leaders accountable, because employee experience is not just an HR job. It's everybody's job within the organization, and it's about how do we all hold those standards together and put that into practice. So that's my only submission to it. It's very hard, I'll be honest. It's going to have a lot of difficult conversations. Yeah, you will upset a few stakeholders. I definitely have. I've tried not to walk on some people's toes as much as I could without having any career limiting moves. It might happen, but get the right people on your side, because that's going to help, because that's the only way your system can work, and the system is bound to fail. Yeah, that's it from me. Yeah.
How are we, Joe? Joe's standing, so I feel like we're ready to.
We're at time.
We're at time.
Oh gosh, we did
so,
it.
quick call to action, but you can see our QR codes there so you can connect with us so that we can chat more. But definitely go back, think about it as an orchestra. Think about which part of that orchestra is not hitting the right note and how you can get them back into harmony with what you're trying to do for your teams.
Well, thank you very much to Peter and Yashika. A huge round of applause. Some really good food for thought there. Thank you so much. Speaking of food for thought, how about food for food? That would be rather good. It is lunchtime. Lunchtime is sponsored by Meta, so you need to go and get your voucher and then head on downstairs for your Meta lunch. Enjoy, chat, and chat about your onboarding. Have fun.